Hey everybody, Miss Erin here for another episode of Storytime. So we are reading Tales from the Brothers Grimm, a pair of brothers that lived in Germany. They collected a bunch of different folk tales from the German countryside, and we have them compiled in this little book for you. So today we are going to read Rumplestiltskin, and I know you've probably heard that name before. So let's get started. High on a hill, the windmill's sails turned steadily in the breeze. The proud old miller looked down on the village below. And you can see in the picture a beautiful little village here. It's about time my daughter was married, he thought, but none of the young men in the village could possibly match her. The next day, the baker's son came into the miller to buy a sack of flour. Spying on the miller's beautiful daughter working at her spinning wheel, he asked her father shyly whether he might ask her to marry him. "My girl is far too good for a baker boy," scoffed the miller. "She's the prettiest girl in the village, and she spins the finest thread in the entire kingdom," he boasted, getting carried away. "She can even spin straw into gold." Disappointed, the baker's son heaved his sack of flour over his shoulder and trudged home. Back in the village, the baker's son told his mother what the miller had said. "That's incredible," she said. She hurried off to tell the shoemaker's wife, who told the innkeeper, who told the king's huntsman. It wasn't long before word got out of the girl's extraordinary skill. "A girl who can spin straw into gold," he exclaimed. "I need to see this." And so the miller's daughter was summoned to the court. "I can hear you spin straw into gold," said the king, "so I am going to put you to the test. If you fail, your father will be punished." There's a picture of the king and I guess the miller. He snapped his fingers and a guard whisked the girl away to a small room. It was piled high with straw, and in the middle there was a low wooden stool and a spinning wheel. "Now get to work," ordered the guard. "You have until the morning to spin this straw into gold." And then he left, locking the door behind him to make sure the girl did not cheat. The miller's daughter sat on a stool and sighed. She didn't want her father to be punished, but she didn't have a clue how to spin straw into gold. "What should I do?" she cried. Then, all of a sudden, a peculiar little man appeared. He had pointy ears and spindly legs, looked as though they would snap under the weight of his round tummy. "What are you wailing about?" he demanded sharply. You can see him right there. "I have to spin all this straw into gold," she replied, "but I don't know how." "Is that all?" "I can help you," he said, narrowing his eyes. "But what will you give me in return?" "Here," she said, taking off her necklace. "You can have my locket." "That'll do nicely," said the little man, snatching the necklace from her. Grabbing a handful of straw, he set to work. Whir, whir, whir went the wheel as it began to spin. The miller's daughter watched in amazement as the straw turned into bright gold thread. She tried to see how it was done, but the wheel spun so fast it was all a blur. As she started, her eyes began to feel heavy, and soon she was asleep. When she woke up, the little man had vanished, but where the straw had been before, there was now 20 neatly tied bundles of glittering gold thread. The key turned in the lock, and the king came into the room. He could barely believe his eyes when he saw the gold. "You did it," he gasped, clapping his hands in delight. Then he began to think about all the other things he could do if he had even more gold. So the guard took the miller's daughter to another room. It was larger than the first and filled with even more straw. Once more, he ordered her to turn the straw into gold overnight. And once more, he locked her in. No sooner had he turned the key in the lock than the old little man appeared from behind a mound of straw. "I can help you," he said, stroking his beard. "But that's a lot of straw. It might take me all night. What will you give me in return?" "This ring on my finger is all I have left in the world," sighed the girl. "I'll take it," he snapped. Then he started to spin. Whir, whir, whir went the wheel all night long, but try as she might, the girl could not stay awake to see how it was done. The next morning, the king was so thrilled to find 100 golden bundles of thread, but it was only made him want more. He led the miller's daughter to a third room. It was even bigger than the last, and it was crammed from the floor to the ceiling with straw. But the king, being king, is a costly business, he told her. "If you can spin all of this, I will have all the gold I'll ever need, and I will make you my queen," he promised. As soon as the girl was alone, the impish little man appeared. He took one look at the vast mound of straw and let out a whistle. "Now that is a lot of straw," he said. "I can help you, but it's a big job, so it will cost you." "I have nothing left to give you," sobbed the little girl. "Well," wailed the little man, "it seems the king has taken a shine to you. If you were to become queen, then you must give me your firstborn child." The girl's mind was a whirl. She had no idea what might happen, so reluctantly she agreed. Satisfied with the deal, the little man set to his task again. Just as before, the miller's daughter fell asleep, but the little man worked furiously all night long. Whir, whir, whir went the wheel, faster and faster as the little man raced against the clock. Just as he finished spinning the last bundle of golden thread, the key turned in the lock and he vanished. The king flung open the door and was dazzled by the great piles of gold that filled the room. Then, standing in the midst of it all, he set his eyes on the miller's daughter. Her hair shimmered like spun gold. For the first time, the king noticed how stunningly beautiful she was. He fell instantly in love with her. "I've been so caught up with greed, I've treated you terribly," he cried. "If I promise never to make you work at a spinning wheel again, will you forgive me and be my queen?" The miller's daughter looked into his eyes and saw that he meant every word. "I love to," was her happy reply. They were married the very next day. The king spared no expense on the celebrations. He invited the old miller, the baker, and all the other villagers to the castle and feasted long into the nights. It was the most lavish wedding anyone in the kingdom could remember. For once, everyone agreed with the miller when he boasted proudly that his daughter was the most beautiful bride there had ever been. The king and his new queen were blissfully happy together. He was a kind and generous husband, and she was devoted to him. All right, we will stop there for now and continue with our story tomorrow. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed.